Hi, Brendon. How you doing?
Wait, what happened to my button?
Oh, the button
All
has
right,
been located.
there you go. Now
All is
you
well.
mean. I'm sorry.
All is well. We have the button.
We can hear you. You were good.
You need to press a button to make me talk. I'm like Woody in the Toy Story movies. I didn't realise.
No.
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad for the middle of the week. Right?
Good.
Yeah, it is Wednesday. It is the middle of the week. Hopefully things will get easier from here on out, right?
So I know you've been up to I know you've been up to a lot of things, and I also know there are some of them that you can't quite talk about. So let's focus on the stuff you can talk about.
I love that. Well, there's all these exciting things, but I can't talk about them yet. I love that. I love that very much.
I don't really know. I don't really know what I can say about some of these things, but I can say that I've been developing a new audio drama with Tin Can, who's David Devereaux is.
David Devereaux, yeah.
Yes.
He's just great. He's very good at what he does.
David is really, really fun to work with.
Future.
Yes.
Fantastic.
So I can say that, but everything else is kind of secret. I'm writing a picture book at the moment. Can I say that?
Really?
Like a children's picture book?
Yeah, a children's picture book, and it's guess what genre it is?
Is it horror?
It's a mystery.
Is it mystery? Excellent.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, we need to talk.
Detective story for kids.
We need to talk about mysteries. Let's start with the picture book. So it's a detective story for kids, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really going to say much else about it at the moment because that's literally what I'm working on at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
to
what
be
I'm spending
determined.
all my days thinking about. I think the idea was, I've never done NaNoWriMo with a novel, and I thought this year I was going to, and then I was a bit poorly, to be blunt, and I'm playing catch up on a few things, and I'm just not up to doing a draft of a novel in a month, and I thought, well, I'm going to write a book, and if that book's only got 800 words in it, then it's maybe a bit more manageable.
800 words.
I think so. But it's very intricate and sophisticated plotting. Let's just say that.
I was gonna say that's not a lot of space as far as adult level contemporary prose.
No,
to get much
there's
accomplished.
there are almost no published picture books with more than, like, as a percentage. If you go over, I think it's about 95% of them stop at about 900 words.
Wow.
So and then there's some like Sean Tan don't have any words. So they definitely skew towards the less words. But part of the challenge has been thinking about getting as much story into those words in a totally lucid and clear way as possible. And that's really fun and exciting. It's not quite something I've done before. I've written Flash before, but it's a different thing. The story's much more singular. Do you know what I mean?
Flash stories, I always think of flashes in the grenade.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally got to be an idea grenade.
Yeah.
It's just
bang.
boom, done. But, trying to develop a even novelette length concept with that limited a quantity of words. I mean...
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds tough.
So it's quite an involved story with a genuine start and a middle and an end and some mystery and lots of clues. And how to do that in 800 words, it took me a little while to work it out, and I'm not going to say what it is, but I'll tell you what, I'll come back and talk about it when it's ready.
Great.
I think you'll love it.
That sounds awesome.
So that's what I've been doing today. Alongside, Alasdair's been really kind, and he's been drawing people's attention to a lot of my blogging or tweeting or posting about detectives, and I've been thinking a lot about mysteries and so on. So they've been in my head quite a lot lately, really. But I love them, and I think I'm good at them. So I'm going to stick to it.
I
good
know
for
you're good
you.
at them. Yeah. Absolutely.
Good for having confidence in your work. That's important.
I find it really interesting because I know we've talked a little bit about how you construct mysteries and how you construct stories like that. I find it just massively impressive that which is a very not prescribed but very complex process in a lot of ways, you've taken and then overlaid doing that in 900 words. I mean, that's serious business.
It's the next step, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
It's the next. It's the next. It's the. How close can I get this to actually being a watchmaker? I'm thinking. You know, at what point am I just got the monocle in and the tiny watch screwdriver? And I think, but I really enjoy it. And I think actually, I'll say this about the ticking world. It was a bit of a puzzle to put together.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I can talk about that more when people actually know what it is, and we've not really told them what it is. So
we haven't yet. So why don't I show them what it is really quick, and you can walk us through it.
Okay.
Ta-da! So what I've done is I've put the cover up on this chat for everybody.
Okay, so as people can see, it's an illustrated cover, and in fact, it's a very illustrated book, except for it's not really a book; it's a calendar. And about 13 months ago, I was thinking about advent calendars, and almost like a dad joke, I thought, "Oh, what's an adventure calendar? Like advent calendar, adventure calendar?" It slipped into my head, awful pun. And I was just thinking, well, what is that? What would that actually be? And I started thinking about, the advent calendars that are just little doors with pictures behind. And I started thinking, can I do something with one of those? But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, I think actually there's something beautiful about having a calendar, a wall hanging calendar with a lovely big illustration on it. Something beautiful about those. And you never get those at Advent. You've always got these little fiddly things. And I think, maybe if you had a wall calendar and you turn the page every day in Advent and you got a new picture. And then that led me towards the sort of choose your own adventure or fighting fantasy style branching narrative. And I thought, what happens if you put that inside a calendar? And immediately what happens if you put that inside a calendar is it becomes
this thick,
complicated and difficult. If there were two choices every single day and none of them repeated, this thing would have over 470 pages.
God.
So working out a different way to have that amount of choice and that amount of agency, and to not split the pages up into passages, literally a page is a passage, I had to come up with some clever ideas to do that, actually. And I don't really want to give away what they are, but it gives you the Fighting Fantasy experience at a fraction of the pages. It's 65 pages.
That's impressive.
Wow.
What kind
you
of
get a significant choice every day. Sometimes you get 5 options on your choice, as much as 5 options on your choice. And I don't want to spoil it, but I think it's quite clever.
What tools do you use when you're assembling a narrative like that?
So I think when you think of the branching, I think everybody's favourite or one of the well-known ones is twine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking it as a decision tree, and if it's go up the stairs, turn to passage 3, run out the front door, turn to passage 27. Twine covers that side of things really well, but there needed to be some other things at work in this for which there weren't tools. So I sort of had to sort of partly do it in my head, partly do it on paper, basically. And if I didn't like puzzles, I wouldn't have done it. But I think it was the enjoyment I got from putting it together, I hope, is really contagious, actually, and it comes across in a different way, and you get the precision of the watch movement without having to worry about all of the cogs. I think so.
Talk to us about the illustrator a little bit.
Yeah, so this is. I'll tell you the truth. When I first thought of doing it as a sort of a fold out little images behind the windows, I had a different aesthetic in mind, and I reached out to a different illustrator, thinking we could probably get it done for last Christmas, but she wasn't available, so it sort of went on ice, so to speak. And then early this year, I just what was happening? I was actually doing social media for the University of Oxford. I was doing the social media around the rollout of the vaccine. So it was one of the most exciting jobs I've ever had.
I remember really DMing you going, can I read this study? Should I trust this result?
I mean, like, the truth is, if you actually look at the actual studies, the data is really good and really solid, and all of the vaccines are all incredibly safe and all incredibly dependable. And then you look at the media coverage, and it's just chaos and nonsense. But if you go back to the actual data, it was great, and we were briefed really well by very sound and rational people who gave us good information and answered questions. And so I did get loads of people coming to me saying, or coming to the social media channels and saying, I think potentially really dangerous things. So we had to, sort of handle that. But that was going on, and this brought me into contact with a bunch of people at Oxford, which is my old hometown. I'm Oxford born and bred. In fact, the last time I saw you, Alasdair, was in Oxford.
Yes, it was.
Is that when you moved to the Bodleian?
Yeah.
That's right. And so I sort of remotely met a bunch of people in my old hometown, and we got talking. What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And I said, well, I've got a bunch of projects, and I'm looking for illustrators. And someone said, oh, I can introduce you to a fantastic illustrator. So I was remotely introduced to Maya Evans, who is sort of an old near neighbour of mine, and we've never met because she's in Oxford and I'm now in Norwich. But we've spoken remotely, we've had some chats, we've emailed an awful lot. And looking at Maya's work, it sort of influenced the aesthetic of the ticking world and then led somewhat into the story, really, because I think, if you're doing it properly, those things should
have feedback on each other.
Of course, yeah.
You don't want any.
Oh, it looks like we got a little bit of a delay. That's okay.
We'll be there in a second.
You're good.
You're good.
We just had a little hiccup.
I'm good.
You're good.
So so Maya's she's done some work for the university actually, and she did some cover designs, Oxford University Press book covers and things like that, and she's never done anything quite like this. And I wanted to make it as collaborative as possible, so she came up with different sort of slightly different stylistic approaches. And I think the idea we've gone with is best described as being like explorer sketches. So the idea that an explorer has gone to this place and taken a sketchbook, an artistically talented explorer.
I was going to say, seems to be one of those skill trees that they don't tell you about when you want to become an adventurer. By the way, can you draw more than Stickman? It would help.
If you look at some of Indiana Jones's pictures of the Ark of the Covenant, they're very good.
Right?
Clearly a good illustrator. So she's my Indiana Jones here.
Oh my gosh, I just have to plant a flag on that idea. I want to see Indiana Jones's sketchbook. We never get to see his sketchbook.
Somebody made a replica of Abner Ravenwood's sketchbook and sent it. I think it turned up randomly in the post at like Lucasfilm or something. Like some fan did it.
Wow.
But anyway, I wish I could talk more about Abner Ravenwood's sketchbook. Wink.
Oh!
Alasdair knows what I'm talking about, but I can't say anything more about it. But yeah, I wish I could see Abner Ravenwood's sketchbook as well.
A friend of mine.
That's all I can say.
You're welcome. That was completely unintentional, but you're welcome.
Years ago, a friend of mine who looks uncannily like Nathan Drake, his wife made him Drake's journal from Uncharted 1 and 2, and replicated all the drawings right down to the kind of angry face, death rays kind of stuff.
That would be brilliant. So should we show the chat kind of like the premise, the setup, and then we can talk about how it is we're going to go forward with this?
Yeah, so there's like an instruction page, isn't there? Shall we look at that?
There we go. So it says in big bold font, read this page first. The ticking world is designed for... Well, you're the voice. Do the voice thing. Do the voice thing.
The ticking world is designed for day-to-day adventure from December 1 to December 25th. Each page is marked in the lower right-hand corner to allow you to find the pages you need without looking at any others. This preserves the story's surprises. On December 1, you start on the page marked 1A. Depending on the choices you make, you may need to turn to several pages within a single day. The story will tell you which page to turn to next. Whenever you are presented with multiple options of which page to turn to, you must choose only one of them. If you are exploring the ticking world at the pace of an advent calendar, wait before turning to any of the pages until the appropriate day. For example, you would not turn to pages numbered 1A, 1B, or 1C before December 1st. Similarly, do not turn to pages numbered 2A, 2B, etc. before December 2nd.
This is me making a Star Wars activation code joke. You may move on now.
Some of your decisions will affect the items in your explorer's inventory.
Ooh!
It is suggested you keep a very clear record of what your inventory contains at any given time. Some of the items you are able to collect will factor into the choices you are offered as the story unfolds. As the adventure begins, your inventory, she's making notes, consists
The chat can't see me. Hang on a second. I have to show the chat.
As the adventure begins, your inventory consists of a satchel along with its contents, a small lamp, a flask of explorer's soup, and a pencil.
Soup!
The ticking world is filled...
Say that again. Hold on. Satchel.
Satchel.
Okay.
Small lamp.
Lamp.
Flask of explorer's soup.
Soup. Hold on. In flask could be very important. Continue.
Pencil.
Pencil. Does it say if it's sharpened or not?
Let's move on.
Okay.
The ticking world is filled with explorer sketches portraying many of the sights and events you will experience as the month progresses. We encourage you to keep your own sketchpad and draw your version of the scenes and characters you encounter.
I want to see sketches if anybody does them, please.
Your adventure begins on December 1st and on the very next page. Welcome to the ticking world.
There we go. All right, so that's the premise of the game, folks. It's an advent calendar / choose your own adventure story. We have our very small inventory. It involves soup. So I'm
Which
sure
is a good start.
is already very excited about this. And the way we are going to do this evening is Alasdair is going to read through, we're going to do 3 days worth. Mm-hmm. So we're going to spoil the first 3 days worth of the calendar.
Or rather, we're going to spoil one possible path through the
One
first 3
possible
days.
path through the first 3 days. That is correct, because we can only pick one option at a time, and there's probably multiple options for each of the days. But we're going to run the decisions by poll. So you, chat, will be deciding which option we take and which path we're going to take through the first couple of days.
But you're going to have to share the soup.
No, it's my soup. Oh, well, okay, as long as I can have
This just sounds fun. I'm even more excited now I've read this page for this.
I want
great.
the inventory page.
Right?
I want pictures of... Look at the chat. The chat has caught up with the soup. The chat is very happy. Soup is apparently a running gag with another streamer. I don't know. But everybody likes soup. So
yeah, you're going to steer us around.
Here we go.
Here we go.
And what we're going to do is we're going to read this, and then while I frantically type the options and run a poll, and while the poll runs, Alasdair will chat some more with Brendon.
Mm-hmm.
Sound good? Is everybody ready for the first day? Alrighty. Here we go. Okay. Hang on. So you'll be able to see it, but not us while Alasdair reads it. Okay. Here we go.
December 1st. You wake in the depths of cold, dark night. It takes a moment to realize what has woken you up until the sound comes into focus in your mind. The world itself is ticking. The noise is distant but regular, and now that you have heard it, you can't ignore it. You untie your tent's flap and climb out under the still, starless skies to look for the source of the sound. From here, the ticking appears to be coming from the vast grey mountains in the north. You know that you must investigate. Before leaving the camp, you consider it only polite to tell the explorer in the neighbouring tent where you are going. After you have called out a couple of times, the explorer slowly, groggily opens their tent flap to see what all the fuss is about. They don't seem at all interested in your newfound mission, but rather annoyed to have been woken.
Rude.
Through the open tent flap, you can see that the explorer has a good sturdy lantern and an enticing jar of grandel nuts. To ask for the sturdy lantern, 1B. To ask for the jar of grandel nuts, 1C. To ask for both the lantern and the jar of grandel nuts, 1D.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is we've got about a 90-second plus delay going on for the chat right now. So I'm going to give the chat a moment or two to catch up. I love how Scott's like, no peanuts. I'm like, okay, this will be fun in 90 seconds. And then what I'm going to do is I've preloaded. This is as far as I've read so far. I didn't even read the flavor text. I just read the options in advance so I could prep the poll. So that's what we're going to do next. I love how we have like curmudgeon-y neighbor who's like, get away from me, son. You bother me. I'm like, adventure! No. Our grumpy neighbor does not wish adventure. All right. Brendon, I need to know if you've seen Xing Young Kor and her keepsake games, A Mending and a Field Guide to Memory. Oh God, I love a field guide to memory.
Yes, I have. Indeed, I have. And very different to this, obviously, but I'm very interested in these games where you end up with. You go through a creative process. Those are games about putting yourself through a sort of a creative process, and of course, what I want to do after a day of working at a creative process is literally exactly that. That is also my rest. So they're perfect for me, really. I think it's a beautiful idea.
Right. We are gonna start the poll now, chat. You have to help us pick what we're gonna do. At the end of first day, and Triffid, I'm really sorry you're not feeling well. I'm glad you got your COVID.
Yeah. And also soup is good, and especially for you right now.
All right, so here we go. Day 1, ticking. The world is ticking. What are we doing?
So what? Go ahead.
One of the trickiest things about this is that Advent is of a fixed length, right? There's nothing I can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
And most branching narrative books have paths of different lengths, but this can't. Mm-hmm. This takes everybody through to the 25th. And balancing that with the need to actually give it the structure of a story as well. And I want whatever path you take to have the rhythm and shape of a story. There's a rising and falling action. There's a clear midpoint. You know, not to spoil too much, but whatever choices you take, you will get a story, and your story will take you up to the end of Advent.
So that's really interesting, because I know one of the things I loved Choose Your Own Adventure books when I was a kid. I had tons of them. And one of the things that would always frustrate the heck out of me is if you made a really bad series of decisions, you'd get like a quarter of the way through the book and you'd be dead. And you'd be like, oh crap, well now I have to start all over again. So that's actually, one, very challenging, but two, also very compassionate, is that you will have a full 25-day experience regardless of the path that you take.
You're going to get it. You're going to get the full Advent. And you know what? It's your calendar. If you want to sit and go through the whole thing on day 1, that's great. That's fine. If you want to play day by day, that's also fine. But I wanted to make sure that at the end, it was worth going back to the beginning and doing it again.
Yeah, I see that.
And so there's an awful lot of forces pulling in different directions here. It's got to fit in as few pages as possible. Everything's got to be illustrated. Everything's got to have the shape of a story. Everybody's got to get a full 25 days out of it. And again, it's just great fun putting that stuff together. It was really fun.
The chat is very caught up on what are Grandel nuts. And apparently you did a tweet earlier about a word search?
Right. So, okay. Anybody who's listening to this, everybody in the chat, and anybody listening in future on past tonight, can go to the Ticking World Twitter feed, and they will find, and that's at the Ticking World, and they'll find a word search grid. And in that word search grid is a lot of chaos and a lot of nonsense, but also 10 entries, which are clues or teasers or hints or relate some way to the story of the Ticking World. There are 10 things in there. And some of them are one word, some of them are 2 words, like Grendel nuts. And some of them might look like 2 words, but they're 1 word.
Intriguing.
Okay, I'm going to totally have mental note.
But that's up there, and I think that's a way that if people really want to get a sense of some of the things, because we're not going to spoil. This story goes places we're not going to get near. Mm-hmm. I think this is a fun way to leave some breadcrumbs and to tease people. And hey, word search. It's a puzzle of sorts.
There you go.
It's fun.
There we go. All right, so we have the poll results. Our chat is full of good adventurers who are securing our light source before we do anything else. And we're not getting too greedy and trying to, risking losing everything. We're going to pick the thing that's important to us, and we're going to take it. So the chat says we're going to ask for the lantern. So let me clear this poll and put the thing up again.
It's also slightly possible the chat is mildly traumatized from 2 full episodes of Scarlet Hollow, where every single time a new NPC has arrived, we've gone, would you like this bag of damp peanuts a stranger gave me on the bus? And they have all as one gone, no.
So,
thank you.
We're kind of...
Peanuts.
Yeah, I think we're Grendel Nut shy. There we go. Don't worry, Kiwi. There will be more polls because we're going to do 3 days this evening, and that means you will all have one more chance. They won't get to pick the third day, will they? We can do the poll, but, we're not going to look at it.
Do the poll. I'd love to know how it turns out.
Yes. Okay. All right.
People can commit to it, can't they? When they get their own copy, they can lead into what the poll told them.
Exactly. Okay. So, first
Democracy
day...
by EA Podcasts Twitch stream poll. I think that's the future. It would certainly be better than any other form of democracy.
We're doing stress testing, right? This is like those fantastic... Oh, hang on a second. Let me just go away for a second. My favorite part... Okay, that's a lie. One of the things that I love about the Mass Effect games that helps me recover from them afterwards is whenever a new BioWare game comes out, like a month later or so, they do these gorgeous infographics where they break down the decisions that people made in the game.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite things. It's of course everyone loves Garrus. How can you not love Garrus? And who are you heathens who dared to harm Rex? Things like that. So this is early data testing for you. You're okay, Lantern, popular choice. Yes,
it is.
Good.
Do you know, it would be fascinating to see everybody's decisions. And what I really would like people to do is to actually post their choices on social media. So
you should create a poll, a survey or something that people can take after they finish the game, after Christmas, where people can report to you what their choices were.
I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to spoil anything, but there might be an interesting way to do that.
I'm on really good form tonight, so let's just say I'm psychic and everybody can run with it. Okay, fine. Good. Excellent.
Good.
I'm brilliant. Let's move on.
Yes.
Just remember how important light was in the House of Ashes. We have learned our lesson. Brendon, for context, for Halloween... Every year, I forget the name of the studio.
It's Supermassive.
Supermassive Games releases a new entry in their Darker Pictures anthology series. They're all these horror games that you can play them couch co-op, you can play them online, but they have lots of branching narrative decisions. We streamed 10 hours worth of that over Halloween and Monday. And this last one was very, very good, but light was a very key important component of that game. So the chat is with us with, no, we don't want to be dark, we want the lamp. I'm okay, good.
I mean, not to spoil anything, because the chat has committed to it now, but you did already have a small lamp in your inventory. You're just sort of changing one lamp for another here, maybe.
Or perhaps now we have 2 light sources.
Now we have 2 light sources. Shoot, I totally missed that fact.
We can't have enough light sources.
There's not such thing as... We just have a little tiny lamp. My light is not endangered. Okay.
There we go.
Okay, mental note, read the directions a little better next time, Marguerite. Okay, fine, cool. Let's move on. All right, everybody ready? We're going to day 2.
Ready for day 2?
We're going with the chat.
Okay.
We're going to the lamp. Here we go. Hang on, I have to find... We have to go
Still day 1, actually. It's actually still day 1. It's another choice on day 1.
Yes, it is. It's day 1, so it's 1B.
First choice, we're going to 1B. All right. 1B.
1B.
Oh, hold on. Let me put it up for the chat to read. Okay.
You want this lantern? Only if I can have your lamp. That's fair, isn't it? The sturdy lantern casts a powerful, warm glow. You didn't have to press the accent emoji 3 times. It should be very helpful as long as it stays lit. Your own small lamp may fit nicely inside your satchel, but it is, by comparison, rather dim and weak. If you agree to the swap, remove the small lamp from your inventory and replace it with the sturdy lantern.
Okay. Hold on. Now turn to 1D. Hold on. I've made a note of my directions. So I have to update my inventory.
Now have a bigger lamp.
So now we have a
sturdy... So there was an if there. There was an if there, Marguerite. It was if you agreed to the swap. So you have unilaterally decided that you will agree to the swap. Is that correct?
Or would you like to run a poll as to whether or not we're doing the swap with the chat?
Hang on. I have to type. Hang on. Yes. New poll.
So I have a question, and I'm really curious about this. What direction did you write this in? Because it's in such a prescriptive shape and space. Did you do the ending first and work backwards from it, or did you always know what you were aiming towards, or what?
Oh, I've said this to you before. You don't know. You haven't got a story if you don't know what your ending is.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe that's true. You either get lucky and you get to the right ending by luck, or you've done your first draft is an incredibly wordy outline. If you know what I mean, that you need to go back and revise.
I do.
So I had to get a very clear sense of the structure of this thing. You know, the full scale of it before I got down to smaller units and then smaller units again.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the first thing I had to work out was, well, I mean, I'd call this a mystery, but if it was a murder mystery, it wouldn't have much replay value, right? Because at the end of a murder mystery, the solution is who done it, right? And that's not that. Once you found out the answer to that, that answer's always going to be the same, or there wasn't a fixed answer, therefore you didn't find it out, right? So
yeah, I get you.
It's possible to write a murder mystery branching novel in which there are multiple who done it, but then none of those answers are real. You're sort of sliding between parallel, or they're not privileged in any way over one another. Or if one of them is privileged, you get to the end and it's revealed. So I had to think about a different kind of mystery, which was not about the what, but more about a how, and not the how someone did it, but what you're going to do about it. How are you going to cope? What are you going to do about this problem you've got, really? So you've got to sort of look at the clues and work that out, and you will make one. Every path you will come up with some solution to the problem or another, and there's not a privileged one necessarily. I don't really want to spoil it, but so what that meant is I had to work out what the problem was, and it had to be a problem that had a lot of different solutions.
That just makes it sound even tougher.
Funner. It was just fun. I loved it. I had a great time.
Brilliant.
I'd do it again. I am going to do it again.
That's what we want to hear.
So we're running the poll right now about should we accept the swap, and overwhelming majority is already saying yes. So the poll's got 2 minutes left to run, which is fine because Wendy reports that we're about a 2-minute delay right now. I don't think it has anything to do with us. I think it has everything to do with, Twitch and tired electrons and all that good stuff. But
And why would a streaming platform be able to stream? I mean, that's just crazy talk.
Right? I mean, reliably and safely. What on earth? I mean...
What are they bouncing you through? Do you know what I mean? Why is it taking 2 minutes? Are they?
That is a really good point.
It's probably our horrible Wi-Fi.
We also have a suspicion that there are at least 2 other streamers in this building. We know there's a professional one who moved in downstairs about 6 months ago, and every now and again, when you listen closely, you can hear his howls of anguish. I suspect.
Yeah, exactly.
But still, I don't know how that gets you 2 minutes behind.
Me neither.
It's just a thing.
I think there's something. I think they run you through some delay for some reason, and I don't. Maybe not. I don't know.
Internet gubbins.
Magic blue pixie dust.
Magic internet gubbins. Yes, exactly. Well, the chat. It looks like our poll's got about 60 seconds left, but
this is almost a 100% response as well.
Exactly. So to try and capture some of the delay. I'm going to let that finish up, but I think we are now going to go ahead and, there could be a sudden last-minute reversal, but given the delay in the chat, they're going to have a hard time actually doing that.
I think you're actually over the line where it's impossible for them to tip the balance now.
Well, I think they can change their votes during the poll, so if everybody decided to be shits... they could go. All right, okay. The poll is completed. 92% says yes.
Wow.
So we asked, shall we swamp our lamp for the lantern? Yes. 92%. Sturdy is good. No, keep our original. So instead of a lamp, we now have a sturdy lantern. So there's that poll.
That's good.
We are now going to put push the button, put it back on the thing.
So all of this has taken place on the first day.
Yep.
These are all things you will do on your first day with the calendar. So it's not just a stress. It's not just one page per day.
Right. So now we are moving.
Packed a lot in here.
You really have, and it's really interesting playing this because it feels spacious. Because of that, because you're already moving across a couple of pages, this doesn't feel like just like a yes/no tree. This feels like a game world. I'm really impressed.
All right, so we've moved on to page 1D. Go ahead.
The explorer's patience for you runs out rapidly. Get out of here, they snap. Let me sleep. Then they withdraw into their tent, tying the flap closed again to keep you out.
Can I also pause just for a second and say that I appreciate you not gendering the other person on your camp? I really appreciate that.
Yes. So that's a whole big discussion point, but obviously it was very important to me, actually. I mean, we could probably talk for about half an hour about it, but I have not gendered any of the characters.
That's fucking great.
Brilliant. Love it. Right, let's move on.
They then withdraw into their tent, tying the flap closed again to keep you out. You set off from the camp with the ticking as your guide. All is well for the first hour of crunching your way northwards, but as you approach the edge of the mountains, it's obvious that the direct route towards the sound would be impossibly steep. You must choose your path ahead. There are two passes leading into the mountains. One of them is dark, while the other is lit, flickering with what seems to be the glow of a distant fire. To take the dark pass, go to 2A. To take the lit pass, 2B.
Okay, so let's review. So, okay, two passes. Dark while the other is lit. The lit pass is flickering with what seems to be the glow of a distant fire. So, probably more people encounters.
That's what I'm thinking.
I like people encounters.
Do we want to go where the people are?
Well, that's not up to me. That's up to the chat.
Do you want to go where the people are?
I have to type. So, vamp!
So yeah, there's, like I say, the thing which fascinates me about this is exactly how, well, aside from everything, is how much you've managed to put into such a prescriptive format. It doesn't feel prescriptive at all.
I think it's so. Stories are prescriptive formats. I think maybe in a sense. I always think you're going wrong. I like to think of the audience or the reader or the person who's watching or listening to something in my choices when I'm making something.
Yeah.
So when I was, let's use circles as an example because we talked about it earlier, but when I was doing circles, we had to think about, not necessarily what we wanted to do, but what effect we wanted to have. And I think that's sort of subtly different things, really. And it's all communication. Everything's a communication device, really. And I'm talking about things, and I've got themes, and I've got ideas, and I want to discuss them and provoke things. And I don't want to be didactic, but I want to stir things up and get people joining in, even in something like this. And I think the way to do that is to communicate. And I think if people don't get what you're getting at, it doesn't work. So all of the choices always in everything really are about, well, how do I use this or what tools are there? So I think in a way, what might sound like constraints really just sound like considerations to me, really. And I think I like to consider, I like to sit back and stroke my chin and think about the options. Do you know what I mean? So quite seriously, yes, it's constrained, but when you've written something, I mean, I've written a feature film script called Wild Hollow, and I don't know if you've read it, Alasdair, but it reads very you can read it and understand, follow the plot, but the machinery behind it is quite complicated, right? And the process of writing it was again about putting the buttresses up so that the stage flats all look nice and smooth and all the right way up.
Yeah.
And at risk of repeating myself, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's a good time. That's a good time. Because when you do it, that's sort of like that's the asthmatic guy sitting on the couch's version of climbing up a hill. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. it's really interesting to me because this resonates really hard with.
Ooh, this is very
tight,
controversial poll. We've tied. We've gone back and forth twice now. I think I've started it a little bit fast because there's been some change decisions happening. So this is good. This is good.
This
Sorry to interrupt.
Resonates really strongly for me with working as an RPG designer. Your thing of considering your audience, and I've always encountered, and I mean I've always been kind of slightly fringy when it comes to RPG design. But I've always been very aware that there are kind of two schools of thought, and the first is that the player is your enemy, and the second is that the player is your co-conspirator. And I've always tried to think of it in kind of co-conspiratorial terms, because it's really easy when you're doing that kind of thing to go, okay, this is a group of tabletop role players. They're going to want to sleep with it or kill it or eat it, or possibly all three.
Where are the Cheetos? Yes, exactly.
And just that level of, if the group does this, try this. If the group does this, try this. I know when I first started out, I found it was a lot like trying to nail down a tarp over jelly. It was like, I'm going to sort this, and every time you did it, another part popped up. And with the last 2 or 3 things I've done, it's become far more about, some people are going to want to do this. How can we work with them to give them what they want, which also gives us what we want and creates the right emotional response?
It's like, do you know what? I've learned an awful lot about this from Taskmaster. I'm watching the way Alex
does
on Taskmaster. It's about making a playground, and you can give them a challenge in that playground, and then they're going to deviate from that. But you can put things in there, and a good task on Taskmaster is one where he goes, oh look, here's this thing you didn't notice. So there's Alex has played as well, and he's had his way, and he's hidden a little mystery game in there. But they've then all done their own thing as well. So these 5 or 6 different personalities have all played this game or moved the pieces around. They've played in a completely different way. And I think a good anything really, a good piece of media really negotiates that sort of meaning, and you bring some fun there that can be found and can be uncovered, but it's also a bit of a playground. And even with the word search thing tonight, I think it's just a way of sort of saying, look, have some fun, have a look at this thing, scratch about. If you want to dig into it and look for things, and maybe it's clues or you can join them together in some way, great. And if you don't, just get the calendar and move on. But I think if we're not playing, especially something like this, which is ostensibly a game, right? We're not playing together. We're playing against one another. I don't want to play against somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
This isn't a competition.
So the poll has completed, and the results were 9 to.
Well, we're going for the dark path.
We're going for the 69%.
Nice.
So we're going for the dark path. Everyone has selected. Now that we have our sturdy lantern, apparently we're all eager.
Apparently we are emboldened.
We're all emboldened to put it to the test. All right. So let's go for the dark path. Oh, it just says we're having some buffering issues. There we go. Hold on a second. It's giving me an idea to see if I can try and fix some of the latency. So.
But no, just to kind of pick up on what you were talking about the kind of working with people, not against them. There are occasionally times, and there have been occasional times across the last 4 years or so, where hope has felt a little bit like a somewhat vanishing commodity. But one of the things which, even at those points, has always kind of come through, is there really does seem to be this, for want of a less pretentious term, growing paradigm shift in game playing and storytelling towards, no, everyone gets to have fun.
I'm so grateful for that as well, because having been stuck in games where you paid combats for 30 hours, I mean, it gets really nasty and uncomfortable and unenjoyable. I'm trying
I've banged the drum about it a lot. Alice has seen me doing this, but my favourite board game or card game is Arkham Horror, the living card game, and one of the things
it takes you 4 hours to set the damn thing up.
Not when you've done it 5 times. And
Cool.
You've internalized it, but I like it. I do like it because it's cooperative. I like it because it's got loads of emergent storytelling in it. I like it because it is it is to the Lovecraft what Paul Verhoeven's Starship Troopers is to Heinlein Starship Troopers. It's like a complete inversion of its politics. Just totally flips it on
That's
its
a
head.
lovely way of describing it, absolutely.
And I like, again, the fact that the game designers sort of come into your game and they end up sort of playing with you a little bit, but you are making the story with them, not against them, but with them, you know? And yeah, it's something that the mechanics, the mechanisms of it are not at all like the Ticking World, and the tone of it isn't at all like it. But I wanted something that had a sense of emergent story. I think out of some of the